Okay, so now we're back with perspective figure relationships number 2. And now we're going to take what we learned from the previous video, basically setting up a plan view, and then going ahead and plugging it into a new technique that I'll show you, which is convergence diminishment guides or estimates for much lengthier, larger, wide out vanishing points, which is a more normative kind of view. And then we can place figures in scale in our flat plan and give us a three-dimensional 2-point perspective plan with tiles on the ground so we can better place our figures. So what I've got in front of you are, and I've popped up the image of our model here, Brian, so we're going to work from this model for a while. And the image here on the left is obviously the image on the photo that we're going to study from. And the images on the right is where I've turned the figure facing directly towards us in front. So there's some work to do there in terms of foreshortening, but we want to be able to put this figure into a 2-point perspectival plane and be able to turn it 360 degrees and keep our scale. So a couple of things. The figure is now going to be 6 feet tall, so we're going to have that. Now what I've set up is our 2 gridded square planes. Each one of these is 1 inch by 1 inch sections, right? In 6 of those. Okay, so 1 inch in this plan view equals 1 foot, and on both. Okay, and each one is again 1 inch, and there's 6 of them. So we have 6 feet tall here, 6 feet tall here, and obviously 6 feet wide, 6 feet wide. So as you're drawing out these 2 sketches, and I want you to do these, is to try to place the figure at the bottom, right on the ground plane. Remember, these are flat views. We're kind of right at, our viewpoint is right at about 3 feet in our point of view. So the horizon line, at least for now, right here is 3 feet. And it's going to give us a very flat, relatively speaking, flat view of the figure. Our goal is to be able to project these figures in perspective and then turn them, which will be even more of a challenge with our drawing coming up. One thing to denote, this line here, I'll kind of demarcate it. The figure is now at about 5'6", because the figure is crouching somewhat. So the height of the model has diminished from 6 feet tall, which is what we'll say, down to now about 5'6". So when sketching this out, what I did is I got my plan scale in, okay, and then as I started gesturing the model, I decided where I wanted that 5'6" to be. So it's a little bit more than halfway. 5'5" would be there, 5'6" is here. That gives me a nice line to draw over horizontally so I can scale and put my figure down. Now you don't necessarily have to worry about 7.5 heads high. If you're just drawing naturally, normally that's just going to occur anyway. That is something that I threw in the last lesson that can also be for a different lecture on scale and proportion of the human figure. But I wanted to go ahead and get that in any way, even though we're working with these very simplified kind of sort of volumetric mannequins, if you will. I just call them volumetric. That tends to be my lingo. Okay, so there's our plan view. Now, what I want to show you is, upcoming in our next drawing, is placing these figures in a 2-point perspectival drawing plane and show you how to set up 2-point perspective, a estimated best guess convergence line estimation of where our vanishing points are at. So we can throw down a simple 2-point ground plane and we can relate, for instance, what's the distance between the legs, etc., the height. We see that there's about 1, 2, 3 feet or 3 squares in between. How do you do that when you get it on a flat 2-point perspectival not flat, but 2-point perspective plane. We have to keep that in mind in 5'6", etc. So that's what we're going to do. It's in some ways it's like the very first videos in the linear perspective series dealing with the Star Wars figures, stormtroopers, etc. that I had. In some ways it's like that, but it's much more sophisticated. Okay, so let's move on now. I'll cut here and we'll move on now to setting up a very relaxed linear perspective system with convergence lines that are estimated, our best guess estimate, and I'll show you how to create some convergence lines to keep everything in a little bit better order as we best guess our way through that scenario. Now you could scale out, you could swing your two vanishing points and scale that out, but that's a lot of work to get an accurate grid floor. We can get a pretty good one with some best guessing convergence lines, and that's what we'll do now. All right, so let's go on to that. Okay, so now let's get started by setting up a 2-point ground plane so we can put this figure. Remember, this is just one figure. It's the same figure in a different turn. We've just taken this figure like a figurine and turned it right, coming right towards us. And we can project this figure in different, with the same pose, but different turns, right? And also control depth and scale with that. It's pretty cool technique. Illustrators, artists use this all the time. All right, so let's set up an horizon line about, roughly down the middle. Let me pull out a little bit with our camera view so you can see more clearly what's going on. I'll tighten this up, straighten this out a little bit. There we go, about halfway down the picture plane. I'm using 18 by 24 inch sheet. So about halfway down, I'll put the horizon line. Let's set the elevation about the same at about 3 feet. So I'm going to write that out here. Elevation will be at 3 feet, which is about halfway down. Now the next thing we want to do is I'm just going to thrust a clean line down. This is going to be our height line of our we're going to draw two figures, the same figure but in two different positions, different than the other two I just showed you. I'm just going to draw this line out here, nice and perpendicular. This is going to be our height line of our model standing straight up, so it would be 6 feet. Now we want nice clean units of measurement. So for this drawing I'm going to have 1.5 inches equals 1 foot, and the other plan drawing 1 inch equals 1 foot. Here I'm going to go 1.5, and remember our elevation is going to be 3. So meaning that from the horizon line, starting at the horizon, I'll go down 1.5 inches. I'll make a demarcation, then a half, then a hole, or a half and a hole there. So that's 2, then 1.5 inches, that's 3. Bingo, there we go. Okay, so that's 3 feet, which gives us our elevation. I'll make this a little stronger mark right here. There we go. So that gives us our place on the ground, essentially where this figure's foot is going to be right in through here. We're going to go up 6 feet. Our elevation will keep it consistent for here at about 3 feet. Even though it's a plan view, we can change that elevation anytime we want for a drawing. All right, so we're sitting on the ground here, so that's 0, 1, 2. We know where our elevation or our eye level horizon line that are connected, since we're in 2-point, right? We'll be right there. Now we can go up and scale this up a little bit quickly. And the reason why we're doing this is a couple things. So 1.5 inches, that's 4, okay. And then let me do this first before I explain it. 1.5 inch, excuse me, 1/2 inch, and a hole there. There we go. Make sure I get that right. 4, 5, and then 6. So there's the total height of the figure right there, 6 feet tall. And let me go ahead and get 5, 6. So half that's 5, 5, right? And then a little bit above that is about 5, 6. So I'll put that down there, right into there. So that makes that 5'6". Okay. So the reason we're doing this, we're going to be projecting these to the left and to the right, these little demarcations, to give us a better guide, a convergence line estimate, okay, of 2-point perspective plane, and then we can better guess how to thrust our plane down on the ground. Now, if you're not comfortable with that later on, after I show you this technique, you can do your full scale measuring, and you can take your vanishing points that are on the paper and swing them. Remember how to do that? If not, go back in the video and find that, because we're putting our vanishing points much wider outside, way outside the picture plane. That means our station point will be dropped down really much lower. Our cone gets a lot wider. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how to do that. So remember, there's an implied over here. I'm going to put an R over here for right vanishing point, and L over here for implied vanishing point this way, left and right. They're implied there. So from 0 here, I'm going to feel a vanishing point along this area. I'm going to come in. Should I come in a little bit with the camera? Let's see. Let's get you in a little bit further so you can see that. I think that'll be better. There we go. So I'm going to feel an implied vanishing point out to about this much. Okay, so it's off the picture plane and in somewhere out that way. So we'll thrust out like so. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. You can raise it up a little bit higher if you want. But they're still decently far away. I think I'll keep it about like that, out in that direction. Okay, so we have that. Now what we can do is find some guessing estimates as to where these other points on our figure would converge to the left and to the right. Remember, we're guessing because we don't know exactly where that right vanishing point ends up. Now you could follow along and line up the ruler to where the horizon line touches and you have it, but we don't want to do that. We're going to kind of feel our way through a little bit. So what I'll do is, what I try to do is take from about right here seems good, just thrust up a nice vertical line. Okay, same thing now with our height 6. Try to feel your way downward to where that vanishing point would end. That's going to be important. Now, since they're equal, you might say that would probably be an equal space here. So maybe about right there. Its trajectory might be something like that, with 3 here in the middle. It looks like it's pretty good. So meaning that 1 and 2, if we wanted to be pretty accurate, what we could do is we could draw a little crossing X here, find its center if you wanted to, and find its center, or just project 1. What I'm going to do is, we know that this is thirds, and you could even measure this out if you wanted to, or take a piece of paper and measure it. I just like to eyeball it. I know I need equal thirds and a third here along this line, so that gives me from 2 to about right there. Nice light line for now. Project through there. In number 1, I'll project through there, or 1 foot, okay? And so that's nice equal third spaces. They are converging to our best educated right vanishing point, our RVP, I should put that. LVP and RVP this way, off the picture plane, too far out to really deal with, okay? Same thing happening over here now. We want thirds here and through there, so I demarcate my best guess estimate of where those thirds are. And so we can say that projects there nicely, that projects there nicely. And so we have a nice converging guide where we're diminishing, where we're moving back into space at a pretty good equal kind of clip. And of course you could do the same thing on the other side if you want. You can thrust a line. You could use the end of your paper if you want. We can just do that. Let's do that over here. We can say, okay, so we come across, keep going with that line. This should feel about equal over here. You could take a piece of paper, or you could take your ruler and measure it. I have 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2.5 inches. So we just put that over here, 1, 2.5. You can be pretty aggressively anal with it if you want. I try to keep it relaxed. We just want to get an estimate to show you that technique. And then we can divide these again into somewhat equal thirds. They're almost about 3/4 of an inch-ish, which is fine. About right there. Okay, and about right there. There we go. So we know that these are about 1 foot increments diminishing, giving us our best educated guide to diminishment down below. Or excuse me, not down below, but down or out and away from us to the left vanishing point. Make sure I have that clear. So that's pretty easy. We've got that. Okay. All right, so we know that the height of our figure is 6 foot. It's going to be crouching a little bit. It's going to be 5'6" later on, about roughly right in through here. The legs will be roughly right in through here. So we've kind of established a height. Now for something new too as well, and I should probably grab a color pencil to help us out. Let me grab that. Let me stop. I'll come right back. Let me get some colored pencils. I forgot to get those. And I'll show you how we can give a best estimate along this little plane of a square, project it, best estimate down on the ground, and get some 2-point guides coming through with the 45-degree measuring point. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got a couple of colored pencils here, a red and a blue, and we can begin to open this up a little bit. So we want to get to the point now we're putting down some gridded marks on the ground surface to give us some scaling to help put our figures into space. Remember they're estimated. So this might seem a little difficult in the beginning, and I know in the past it's easier to mess up, and I'll show you what I mean now. So let's project. We'll start here at 1, and we need a little projection out here. I'll do it in red, okay? And we need this projection now at 0 too as well. Here we go. Okay, so we'll just come out here a little bit. And what I'm looking for now is this distance from 0 to 1. Essentially, it's pretty easy. Is best guess what it looks like to make a square in perspective or a plane. We don't have to measure that because it would not necessarily be 1.5 inches. But we want to have a best guess of what that looks like, okay? So we want to rely on a little intuition here and kind of relax the perspective. Now we could go back and project and swing our vanishing points and make that truly accurate. And you can do that if you want, but I want to relax that a little bit. So I've got what I think is a best guess square plane, and now I can use that projection and throw it down on the ground now. So what we can do is I'll come back with my graphite here, and I'll project it on the ground and keep on going with this line here. There we go. Okay. And now from this point I can start to project this square on the ground. Now here's where our diminishment guides come into play. We don't want to be here. We want to be getting into where that vanishing point is out into the right side. So I'm feeling it about right here. So we can project over. That feels good. So these lines now are our converging guides when we want to sketch and draw. They're good estimates of where we want to be. So if I'm projecting something here, I've got 2, 3, or 4 guides to help me. I know if I shoot up here to the vanishing point, that's wrong. Or if I shoot down, it should be close to, but not exact where those lines are to project. So these are very much are now guides. Okay, so that helped me get this space and this space. So now down below, I've got to figure out where along this ground plane, this looks like a square too. It's almost kind of right where that line just happened to be. I'm going to make it just a little bit longer to play off that. Right in through there. So I'll demarcate it in red there. Okay. So that's what that's looking like. And then now I can go back with my guide and diminish to converge to the left. And it feels comfortable, quote unquote comfortable, converging about just like that. So now I can draw a line on the ground here and here overlapping that. And then right here, I'll finish that out in red is a nice 1.5 in our scale, 1 foot, 1 foot square on the ground, so that we can begin to build a floor to project our figures into. We already have our height, okay? All right, so now what we can do is go back and learn from one of our past lessons in 2-point is project a 45-degree measuring point through the corners, the front and back corner of the ground square, project and go to the horizon line. Boom, right there. There's our 45-degree measuring point. Right there's our 45. We'll demarcate that. There she is right there. Now what we can do, if you remember, clean this up a little bit, is to project from that point right there back through our corners here. Okay, this will go through our center here and here, here and here, to help make some new squares on the ground. So I'll continue here, go back and through, and now we can start to estimate where we have some nice ground planes. So right in through here is a good touch, right through there, okay? Right there is a good touch. So now we can come back and say, okay, let's go back, use our convergence guide about right there. And this is where it gets a little tricky, is you want to use these guides here and here to shoot back to the left or right vanishing point. So I feel like right in through there is a pretty good place to be. We'll shoot right in through there. Okay, so where they touch there, where they touch here, there's a good touching point there. Now we have another touching point there. I can project from my 45 to this next corner. Remember, these always have to go through the center. Sometimes they'll get a little bit off later on, and it happens to me too at times as well. All right, so now I can put another series of squares, so through here and through this point. There we go. Now we can start to work our diminishment. That feels pretty comfortable. So I'm using this line and this line as guides for my next line coming through to diminish. Right in through. They kind of fall in the middle, so I would fall in the middle about right in through there, so I can project another series of squares. So I've got 1, 2, 3, good 4 squares on the ground. And remember, those are what? A foot each. All right, so we've got a touching point there, touching point there, touching point there to help us out. Okay. I could come through with a touching point there and another 45 to help me out. Through here. Okay, so there's a touching point there to help us with our guide. Touching point here, touching point here, touching point there, touching point there to help us out with more squares. Let's see. So see how I can start? That feels pretty good. I might angle that off a little bit. So it's going to start to feel awful. Invariably, I don't think I've ever gotten it truly exact, and that's what the longer scaling method is for, but we want to get a good approximation, that's all. If you're off just a little bit, it's no big deal. It's when you get way off, that feels pretty comfortable right in through there. Okay, and I'll darken in this gridded plane when I'm done with it a little bit. Here, so good touching points here and here. Slow down the video if it's going a little fast. There's no need to speed it up. See? About right in through there's a diminishment. So I started off here, it's a little high, so I'm going to flatten this out a little bit. About right in there feels pretty good. Okay, coming in through here. So we're just giving a guide, an estimate. I want you to keep that fresh in your mind. If we're estimating that which we've learned prior, because our vanishing points are so far away. So we have touching point here, touching point there across. So we're doing pretty good. We can come across here, get a good diminishment guide on this side, about right here. Feels comfortable. Coming through. There we go. Okay. These lines will never touch until they get really close to the vanishing point. So we're laying out some nice comfortable gridded lines. So I'll have a touching point here, touching point here, touching point there. That feels pretty good. Back in through there. I'll let these overlap nicely, coming on through. Okay, so we have another touching point there. So the 45-degree measuring point really is a great tool, great friend of ours. Touching point here, so you come through the center, see how that's off just a little bit, it's no big deal. You can fudge it a little bit. This is one of those times where I'll let you fudge a little bit. But it should lock in close. If it's not locking in close, if you're a 1/4 inch off or a 1/2 inch off, we got problems. But if you're like a 1/16 or maybe an 1/8, you can kind of fudge it, play around with it. It doesn't have to be, for this one, it doesn't have to be so exact. We're getting a close estimate, okay? We're learning how perspective and the figure can work together. And then later on, I'm going to show you how perspective and the figure, when you're just drawing from observation, is a great tool as well. So we're coming over, I'm creating a few more touching points for us to work with, so I can project a few more. So we've got a touching point here, in here, and here, which is going to give us a guide to go back to our to converge back to our left vanishing point. So I've got to bring this down a little bit still. Coming through. Running through there feels pretty good. You can tell I'm off about a 1/16 or so, so no big deal. These are good relative projections in through there. Okay. Alright, so we have that. Let's find some more touching areas. Here where they touch, here where they touch. Here's a good touching point, right, so I can project back to the right. Right in through, let's see, here and here. Use those convergence guides right in through there. Okay, feels pretty comfortable. There we go, right in through there and over. That's it. Okay, so see, that's working pretty well. It's a good relative kind of shorthand estimation method. It really kind of goes along with just observational drawing too as well. So we have that nicely. Okay, so let's find some more touching points to work with. We have a couple here to line up to help us. Right in through there, let's see. Okay, we can come through on this side over here. That will help a little bit. Right in through there, pretty good to help us. Okay, touching point there, touching points. Believes right there and there. That is going to help a little bit to create continue to create our grid. We have a touching point there. So just looking for touch. See how these line up nicely here and here. I'm going to come in a little bit too now to show you a little bit cleaner what we're doing so you can see it. You might be a little confused. So I'm looking for these touching points where our 45-degree referencing point line touches our lines going to the left or right vanishing point. Remember that they should go through the center of our squares. That's what we're really looking for. If they're going way off, then you're really off. You have to start over, I think. All right, so here we go. I'm going to flatten this out a little bit. See, I'm estimating. These shouldn't touch. That's my diminishment guide. They should be close, and they shouldn't be parallel, but they should not touch. Right there feels pretty good. The only time that they'll touch is when they converge truly way over to the vanishing point. And remember, the vanishing point is way far out to the right or way far out over to the left. So we're getting some nice grids in through there. A few more touching points here. There's a touching point there and there to bring us over. So that really helps us. We can do this pretty quick and easy instead of Xing everything off, which takes a lot longer. Okay. Back and through there. Okay. So what we're going to do is project another figure over here. So I'm going to put a few more grid lines, keep going back a little bit, then I think we'll have kind of what we'll need here. All right. So there's a touching line here, touching point here, touching point there, touching point. See how I can find those pretty quickly. And then we'll line those up with a ruler and then see how it's off a little bit there. So we'll come back over and just fudge this up a little bit. There we go. Project through, come back. So we get some nice squares in perspective, so they may be a little bit, they'll certainly be more distorted. So we have a touching point here, touching point there, touching point there, touching point. Looks like, yep, there. And we can go back to our left vanishing point there. There we go. Back. Keep on going. And so we're getting a nice floor to lay down our figure. Okay. Let's see. Let's do a couple of more. There's a touching line here, a touching line there, a touching line there. Of course, we could project another 45 out to there, but I think this would give me enough of an estimate. So it feels comfortable right there to create some more out through here. Okay. And I think we're pretty good. I'm gonna do a few more here. I'm gonna come through this point here with a 45 degree. It goes through this almost to the center, close, and then it starts to get off a little bit more. Through there. I don't think I've ever done one where it was totally perfect, and that's okay. We just want some good estimations. Because in the end, it won't matter too much. There's some lining up points there. That's what the formal perspective, the scaling and measuring is for, to get it really perfect, which is fine. Here we want to get an estimate. I've heard these called diminishment guides, convergence guides. I was always taught to just call it convergence, diminishing or convergence guidelines, or best guess, best educated guess, which is what I've got. Okay, so we've got, I think, a decent floor running here. I think I'll do a few more over here. Do I need one more? I have a touching point here, and in there where they touch, I think that's enough to give me, it looks like it's going to give me that one. Am I right? Yeah, that's enough right through there. Okay, so we've got a good gridded floor, enough to give us some really good places to place both figures. So our first figure is, remember, 6 foot tall, and it stands from, remember, the first square we made at 0. So I'm just going to darken that line in right there, and I'm just going to darken in our height line through the center of the figure. It's kind of like if you stood up straight and you had a little steel bar that came right through from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, came through you, and was your total height, whatever you are. In this case, 6 feet right here, right? So up here I'm a little bit off. So let's see, let's get back a little bit. There we go. I'll pull this down so we can see that. Bingo. That gives you your true height. Now he's going to be at 5'6", so we're going to project that at 5'6" back to a vanishing point. Use our best guess, slightly past halfway, which will be right there as we diminish over. Bingo. Bring them down. Bring him down. Now he'll be 5'6" here, right? If we go darker, but now we can project 5'6" back. Let's put him about right, and the other one about right, right here. So in this corner, we could push it over. I'll just put him in the corner and bring up a straight line, and there he is. Bingo. Not only at 6 foot right here, this will be 6 foot, but this will be also at 5'6" right through there, and we can put our other figure right there. So we're going to put our 2 figures. Now we're ready to go. I know that it seems like a lot, but we have a good grounding relationship right now to put our form, our boxer Brian, we can say, into now our composition, and we can put them in different angles than what we have now in our plan view. So we went from our plan view, we went from 2D. Right, this is 2-dimensional. Now we're going to go even more 3-dimensional in a 2-dimensional way and put our figures into our composition. Okay, so let's get started on that now. So make sure you want to draw along with me. Okay. All right, so now let's start now putting these figures from our plan view into our 2-point perspective dimension now. So I'm going to with this figure I'm going to have the plan view up a little bit on the screen, and also the photo that we'll use. Now you don't always have to use a photo. You can use it, you can draw right out of your head and switch these around. Sometimes I think that's actually easier. You don't get so bogged down by trying to relate to the photograph as much, but I thought it would be helpful in our case. So I'm going to gesture out the first figure I'm going to put in, and then I'm going to draw for a while and then cut and then finish it out and put the other one in, so to expedite things a little bit. I think that'll help. So we're going to have the first figure turned like our plan view here, but turned a little bit this way, so it keeps coming where the buttock will come towards us a little bit. So I'm gonna have that plan view up, so that'll be, I don't have to keep relating to that. I am gonna project the 5'6" down to the left, or over to the left a little bit to help me. So here we are, we have that. So I'm gonna start out with the head and gesture that in a little bit, and of course we're gonna notice that, you know, he's gonna be pushed a little bit in terms of his height, meaning that he certainly won't be 6 foot tall anymore. He's going to be, I'm going to call him 5'6" in this shot. And remember, we're going to work with a volumetric figure for sure to keep it really, really simple. So kind of a head, then a blocky form for the head a little bit. You know, I could have actually erased this down a little bit to keep it lighter, but I want to make it dark enough so you can see it. I would highly suggest you keep this very light on your drawing. Now, so the shoulder is going to come out and be higher over here, and this is where perspective is going to come in. So we're going to have the shoulder, as it goes away from a little bit, be a little bit of a box in through here and come down a little bit. So he's got his shoulders about right in through there, and then over and down, and over and down and through here like so. So his torso, which I'm projecting more as a box, will be about right, starting about right in through here as we gesture on him on down and throughout here. So he's slightly coming back from us, or it could have been, you know, kind of this egg form. You can sort of see that, and through here we can make it a little bit more like a rib cage if you want for now. And through here, so part of that head will disappear later on. I can start to make this a little cleaner, and our very simple geometric, volumetric kind of figure construction. So we have this head now coming back this way in through. So the brow line of the head might be about right. And through here we might see a little bit of the nose in this view, but it's going to be later on a little covered up by that shoulder right in through there, kind of coming over. Keep this simple, right in through here, The center of the back will be about right in through here, coming down. The spinal area right in through here. Keep this going right in through there and over. Now remember, we're diminishing to the vanishing point. It's about on the horizon line there for his torso, ending of this kind of the rib cage and torso, right in through here and downward. And then let's get a feel for where the buttock is to be. The buttock is going to be turned a little bit towards us, but not completely frontal, right? Because that would be even more foreshortening. So we're going to get a feel for the shape of that buttock. So first thing I might use is kind of an ovally box kind of form. And it's tilted down just a little bit. So I'm gesturing over all this extra information. Remember, we're relating and finding the relationship of how perspective and the figure work together to get these two laid in very nicely from our plan view and then also from our photo. So the center of the buttock would be about right here, coming down from the spine over and through here. The sacrum would be about right in through that area, in through here. So the glute of the buttock would be here. Let's make that a little bit more blocky for now in this case. Okay, so we can kind of the top of the buttock and the glutes go down underneath here and over through there. Okay, so we have that. So he's kind of pulled back. Now we can start to think about these legs. So what you're going to notice in the plan view is that the distance between the opening of the legs, and remember, he's pulling his right leg back far enough where it almost lines up with the left ankle. So the ankles are almost in alignment like we have in our plan view, but there's about 1, 2, 3 feet of space in between from angle to angle. So we have to find in our gesture, so I'm gesturing out the leg out through this region. Okay, as I pull or come through, I find where I feel like his knee is going to be. Of course, it's going to be in front of the chest, which feels good in space. About right in through here. So we'll kind of make this kind of our simple tube. Keep these forms really simple. They're volumetric mannequins, if you want. Okay, volumetric tube. So we have that tube here, and then we're building the other tube out up the leg. And it's kind of pulling into the buttock in through here, down and through. Okay, we have that. It's very simple form, locked in. Remember the volumetric figure that we've studied in the past. All right, so then I'll give some concentric feeling to that. And then remember that you can tell by that the plan view that leg is angled a little bit, so we're going to pull this leg. See how we're turning it quite a bit now, about, I don't know, 30 or 40, maybe 50 degrees as we're moving across there. So this leg will come down in, touch that ground. The ankle and the bottom of the foot will be here, but then we're going to push instead of just flat across. So that's about 15 or 20 degrees change. So instead of flat across, that foot will be diminished or converging to our left vanishing point. So we'll bring down the tube of what will be the simplified calf in through here, downward to about right. Oh, feels pretty good in through here, which will be the bottom of the ankle, the Achilles kind of heel and through there. Keep this simple construction. This can be just a simple tube. We can overlap that. I can tighten this up a little bit right in through here. This can come over like an egg form, if you will, like so. Okay, this is all about creating dimensional exercises for your brain, your mind, right in through there. And then the wedge of the foot, see how that comes like a triangular wedge now, but it becomes more like a boat kind of wedge, if you will. So I can even tighten that up with the ruler. We're going and moving a little bit more kind of directly to the left vanishing point. This is the small toe here, and the big toe's on the other side. We won't see that. And then the ankle would be there, high on the outside, low on the inside, kind of right in through there. And then we can feel that Achilles coming down. So this is a change of a form, make a blockier form. So now we go back to the right vanishing point in through there. So we have that coming through. Now we can feel, you know, what's the distance, how far back this leg is going to be. So his ankle, this right ankle of the left foot, is in this direction. So we can kind of feel it's about 3. So it's about on the edge of that where my red square is, and so that would be 1, 2, 3, where that toe would be roughly right in through here. So let's see how that's going to gesture out. We're going to come in through here. Now this figure is going to get a little bigger also as it comes toward us, right? So it's going to come through here. There's the gesture of that leg, a nice undulating opposite curve in through here, and so he's extended decently out and through. All right, so now we can let's take a very simple tube for this leg right in through here. See, notice how the knees are lower also, right, in the plan view, and then also in the in our view now, we're going to have a lower view, so about right in through here. This could go underneath a little bit more. Buttock coming down in through here and over. This is going to stretch him out a little bit in our perspective, just a little bit. Maybe that's a little too much. Let me pull that back just a little bit. About right in through there. And then we can start to bring him down with his tube of his calf. Let me clean that up a little bit. Like so, and then we'll pull out his calf here. So this is going to get a little distorted. come over, and then he'll rest about, it's not quite equal, but about right there. His foot will rest about right in through there. And then we can start to hit that wedge in through there of the foot. He'll have that arch showing, the ball of the foot there, and of course that'll come up to a big toe right in through there, and then we'll get to an ankle. And over here, we'll try to keep that little block here right in through there. That'll get us back to the right vanishing point there. Okay, so we're gonna get some distortion there. That might be too much. I think I'm gonna say that that's, I know we'd get some pull on that, but I think I'm gonna bring that in a little bit. I'm gonna pull that to about 2.5. That's a good position. I like the look of it, but it's a little long, so you can always adjust a little bit. Let's adjust back. That looked a little long, didn't it? So let's change that to about here, coming down to about right there. Feels a little bit more comfortable. I think we got that pushed over, and this will get us down to about right there. I think that'll be a little bit better. All right, let's see what's going to happen there. Don't worry about needing to adjust. I need to all the time. Bring that calf over. Remember, these are just our mannequin figures. And we'll bring it through. We're coming over with the foot now. This will bring down to about the ankle. Just got it pushed. Brace it through. Push to about right. There we go. Pushing it over. And we'll get that ankle laid in. Remember, that's kind of a wedge coming through here, like so, and down. It's kind of the top plane of it. Over here, top plane down and through. That's where the big toe will be. We'll curve that, give it a little bit of a curved arch of the foot coming through. We're opening up on the big toe side. And then we'll get down to the plane here. We'll go back to the right vanishing point right through there. There we go. This foot will be a little bit bigger in perspective. We'll get some distortion. There we go. Okay, so we've got, that looks a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. This feels a little awkward right in through here. So let's keep changing it up until you get it. So you can see how I do that too. If it feels awkward, don't be afraid to change that tube coming in. This could be a little smaller actually. I think that will be a little bit nicer. There we go. Make that foot come down. There we go. Now we'll get the feel of our Achilles and over. And give that a nice kind of plain look. There we go. All right, that feels better now. And we can I can clean that up off camera a little bit. We come back on. So we have that leg there, and I'm going to actually push this thigh a little bit more here. I'm going to bring this in a little bit downward. A little. There we go. Nice and clean line. Clean it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. And so let's fill out the top of the figure now. So let's fill out the hand and arm and shoulder. Shoulder about right here, coming down a little bit, where we have the elbow and then over and in. So it really challenges your sense of, and I'm going to shorten up this side plane now of where we have our model here. I'm going to bring him down and then in just a little bit, like so. There we go. You can use your ruler too if you want. Tighten it in. There we go. Clean that up a little bit. This will come down. There we go. So let's gesture that shoulder in, and we'll come over with where the arm would be, right in through here. Gets us diminished. Now this other arm is coming from the other shoulder way over here through, and then out and over, not as high as the head. The head diminishes going back, so that I feel like that arm, the hand will be here, and it's certainly in front. It's the furthest thing in front of everything, so the fist will be about right in through here. So we've got our model doing about right in through there. So let me find the basic forms, and then I'm going to go and clean this up a little bit and show you how that finish, and then we'll put the other in. And you can finish it on however you want to finish it on yours. Sacrum through there. All right, so let's find the basic form in through here of our mannequin figure tube, of our volumetric figure in here. There we are. Concentric lines. There we go. And then we're going to get more foreshortening than what the camera shows us, or what the photograph shows us, because we're pushed over about 20 degrees. We've moved him over 20 or maybe 30 or so. I'm not exactly sure. It doesn't matter that much. So we're going to get something that's going to look more like this here. It's going to get smaller and flatten, and then get really wider and flatter and rounder as we come over. It's almost like a tube or an egg form, really kind of coming at us in through there. So we get that bony protrusion probably right in through there, and in through there. There's our forearm and our wrist, and then the thumb would probably come about right and over through and down, and then we get around here to the hand and over, with the fist being probably about like something like that-ish in our drawing. There we go. So we have that. Let me clean that up a little bit. There we go. So I get the relative feel of that, and the thumb coming over and kind of down like so. Okay, and in the other arm, let's find our tube. We've got our gesture through here. Remember, we're drawing through the form to find that movement of it coming down. Won't see much of the forearm or the upper arm. We might see a little bit through, and not even through there. Then we start to see the lower arm, the forearm, and then the wrist about right there. Tilted maybe a little bit higher, right through the tube of that, then coming down. See how that all feels and connects together. It's really intuitive at this point. You're just drawing forms and shapes to try to get them to relate together. Back of the head through there. Neck kind of coming through. I'll clean that up a little bit in a moment. And then we have the fist, the forearm. We'll just think of that as kind of a block here, with the fist probably, let's see, fingers like so, kind of coming over and dominating a little bit more of the pose, with the fist kind of over that in that direction. Real simple kind of form. I can clean that up in a moment to think through that a little bit more. Didn't waste time doing it. Okay, so there's our first position of our figure. Now the second one is we're going to put over here, and I'm going to turn it a little bit opposite direction. And it's going to be, here's our 6 foot figure, 6 foot, and then 5'6" here. Probably have him go maybe either away or coming at the opposite direction of this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean this up so I don't waste time doing that. Make it a little bit better presentation, and then we'll come back and you can see that, and then you can gauge it against yours if you want, and then we'll put the next figure over there. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're ready to place the second figure in. So I went back and cleaned it up, adjusted a little bit, adjusted the hands and the arms a little bit, which are not easy to turn in different perspective positions. Really quite challenging, so do the best you can. With the feet, I actually reduced their size a little bit. I had them too big. We've got, and now more accurate to the plan view, there's about a little over two full squares between the two, with a little bit extra. So I feel like I've related that better now to the positioning of the distance of his opening of his feet with the right foot not quite aligned with the left, but close to it. So I feel like that's pretty accurate turning position. Got the torso in, etc. And now we're really ready to push on to the next position. So we're going to take him and we're going to turn him and have him go this way now. Okay, and then use our perspective, our convergence, diminishment to help us out as well. So he's going to stand where we had him demarcated before. That's his central height line here. So at 5'6", he's 6 foot tall. Here's his true height. He was standing straight up. He arched up about 6 feet, maybe a little bit higher, but that's okay for now. 5'6" is about right here, and that's where we're going to put his head as he's arched and tilted. So he's going to be coming now this way, or we could make him go back in space a little bit that way if we want to maybe turn to the back. Maybe we'll do that where he's really diminishing and also kind of coming forward a little bit. So I'll show you how I handle that. So now we can start with the top of the head. So here we are here. Here's the side plane of the head. I'll just shade that down just a little bit, soften that so you can kind of see that plane turns down and starts to move over to the right, where the side of the head, this is the back of the head, the left side of the head moves now towards the left vanishing point, basically a 2-point box, right? So we can start to put our head construction. Do we want to use a cylinder or a block? Maybe we'll start out with kind of a cylinder here. So the head tilts back a little bit away from the major thrust of the body. So to be more accurate, that would be straight up, maybe about right through there. So it's tilted a little bit. Of course, he's diminished, and we're above our eye level, so that the part of the cylinder, this would be the top of the head, would be pushed back just a little bit. So we'll spend some real quality time getting that head position lined up pretty well. The bottom of the chin is over here. It projects back probably to about nicely right in through there. So we have that. If anything, I could have pushed maybe this head a little bit up and higher, but we could do that a little bit with the neck and chin to help out. But I think it works decently pretty well. That's my major criticism of my drawing there. All right, so now we're gonna put in the gesture, the flow of the figure. So we have him. He's coming kind of this way. The back is here. Okay, so we can feel. You can use your diminishment guides, kind of where that torso is or the pelvic region is. We can project back to our guide for our right vanishing point here and here. Maybe we can do it a little bit in red to help us out. I'll do it here and also kind of here to pull us back into and help us with our guide a little bit. So we're going to come down as he's pushed back in space and through here. So that might make this head a little too small actually, so we better make him a little bit bigger. So it's a challenge. That's why perspective really kind of helps us place these forms in a more clear kind of way. Gives us a better idea of where they fall. And we can use very simple volumetric figures to help us, kind of concretely, resolutely finish these out. So he's going to be kind of straight up a little bit here, like so. And so we're going to be turned kind of another back view in through here, probably a little bit easier for us, right? And so this gesture line tends to be straight, curve, and then kind of come back in there. That feels a little bit better. We had to really change that size. This is probably the hardest part, getting that gesture in. So we've got the positioning of the ribcage torso kind of in here. Let that flow in. And then we're going to use maybe I'm going to use kind of a disc sort of bowl shape for this pelvis region for now. Back right in through here. The bottom would be right in through here. His buttock would start to come back, split in this direction. So we haven't drawn that yet. We have our plan view going. in a flat to the left and then right in front of us, and then we have our next figure going off, kind of a back view to the left, and then we're going to have this one going off to the right. So we have that, and so now we're going to push. Now if we turn this figure, the left leg will turn and be going forward out this way, and the right leg will be turn and coming forward out towards. So I'm going to start with the right one. It's a little bit easier. Hip pointer over here would probably be right there. The other one on the inside would be probably right there. So I'm feeling this hip pointer on this side about right here or so. And then the other one, if we see through the figure, it's going to be slightly diminished about right in through there. Okay, so now we can start to pull this leg back. So we're looking at this one, but from a very different point of view. So we're coming back here, right? And then he's going to continue on with his leg, and then he may hit the ground about right. Here's our 5'6" line, so we can kind of feel him about right through here. So that's going to go behind this front leg of our front model boxer right in through there. We'll keep it simple. So I feel pretty confident about that one for now. So I'm going to tube out his leg a little bit right in through here, kind of have him come down, knees about, let's see if we're going back about right in through and over. Feels pretty good, about right, maybe about right in through there, just to get his size locked in. Here's his leg, tube about right in through here, I would imagine. Don't be afraid to mess up in a race. I had to mess up in a race. It's hard, especially with some of the specific turns of the body and those body parts. Makes you really think about three-dimensional space quite a bit. Okay, so we have this leg coming down. We'll just keep it simple and flat for now. That feels pretty good where his foot's going to be there. Okay, so now we have the buttock form here. Okay, we have that here, and it's slightly tilted in front. So yeah, that feels pretty good there. The split of the back here, define the split of the sacrum. It's right down the middle, but in perspective. About right there for now. That's sitting on the outside. That's your tailbone. If you reach back there, you can kind of feel that plate. Very hard part before it gets to the fleshy bottom part of the glutes of the buttocks. You see, they're feeling something kind of like that for now. Okay. Okay, so like that, push forward. This plane goes back. This would push to the right a little bit. This would push, this would push to the left. This would push to the right, like so. So we have that. Okay, so we have his back coming through. I might push the back over just a little bit more. It's a little bit too far to the right. It's a bit more to the left, then down the rib cage, down right in through there. It's kind of the spinal cord, if you will. So here's the top of the rib cage, about right here. So sometimes when we draw the torso, and this is a tilted form, we'll eliminate the abdomen for a while. The belly basic, I can put that in later. This is going to tilt and come up a little bit, like so. Okay. This is going to come in for us, up and through and over. Here's his shoulder. Basically, it's that extended hand, which would be a little bit actually lower, coming in about right in through him. Feeling it about right in through here for now. We'll see how that works out in a moment. So this could come over just a little bit, like so. So just feeling our way through this form. I'm doing it exactly the way I'd have you do it. For sure, just follow along with me. And then you can clean yours up later and compare. So we have that, the top of that rib cage and box. Now we can kind of put the abdomen in a little bit. Right in through here, and in through the oblique on the other side, kind of right in through there. I'm going to square this off a little bit. Tilted form, so it doesn't necessarily plane off to the left vanishing point, because it's tilted a little bit downward. Okay, that feels pretty good. All right, so let's see, let's feel this gesture a little bit further of the hand, the head in through here, kind of the side plane of the head. Tilt it in through here, coming down. Brow would be about right there. Cheek. We might see a little nose poke through there, like so. And I'm going to push in just a little bit so you can see a little bit better. There we go. Let me push that down. There we go. Okay, you can still see the bottom of his foot. Yeah. All right, that's important. We don't want to block things off for you. So the thrust of the neck and the cheek back in through here. We'll square this off a little bit. Keep this more simple. So see, I'm thinking of a tube, then I'm thinking of a block, of different constructive methods, just trying to get a handle on the form. Neck coming down, attaching through here, shoulder, block, shoulder, block. And this is going to get thicker, obviously. Okay, so let's talk about now a complex part of what's happening next, and that's going to be with the hand and arm and shoulder of this particular one. So we're drawing the right one over here, so we're having to turn it. We're doing this, we're taking this hand and it's turning, 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 and turning, and then going that way. So you have, this really forces your imagination. It's a great exercise. It turns, 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 and then goes that way. So this is like his hand is here, the shaft of my finger is the arm, turn, 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 and then it also, we're turning it about almost 180 degrees, right? And we're also drawing it diminished and in smaller position. It's the same figure, but we're taking a figurine and going whoop, and we're drawing, and we're doing all this in our mind. We don't have it really in front of us. That's why I think a lot of times it's actually easier to draw from just your imagination, I think, a little bit sometimes. But I think in this case, for now, it's good to have some photo reference for you. So there's that. But all right, so I feel like this is a little high. Okay, I mean, not marijuana high, but actually, you know, too high. But there's a joke there, by the way. So this is a little high, so we get this arm coming over and then through, and he brings it towards his body just a little bit with the gesture. Gesture and structure here is so important. So we get the gesture of that, and then he tilts that up a little bit. Thumb up. We'll feel, I think, about right in through there. I still feel like the hand is a little too high. It keeps it lower. This actually drops down to about right. Subtle. And it doesn't quite has it completely extended. So it's about right in through there. Feels pretty comfortable, I think. I'm getting a good feel for that. And the other one, the other arm and hand, it's a little bit lower, and it rests about where the forearm is. It's going to be out a little bit further, about right in through there. That's where I feel they're going to be. It's challenging, isn't it? So there's my rough gesture for what I'm feeling for that. So that's I kind of have it gestured in. And the last thing I want to gesture in before I get into making volume. Remember, gesture, action, right? Volume, and then definition or detail. So I feel that coming through. Remember, we're about two blocks or two square forms here and here. Okay, there we go. And so we're going to be pushed. So here is about 1 and then 2. So that other foot is going to be a little bit further over here. So I'm feeling it about right in through here where the end of the ankle and the foot's going to be about running through here with our gesture. So he's coming down. Remember, we've got to take this leg now and turn it and come all the way through. So it comes out this direction about this far. It almost lines up with, if you look at the plane view, with the elbow right here. So actually it might be a little bit, let's say a little bit lower running through there. So they'll line up. Here's where I think the knee's going to be, and then he's going to come in just a little bit and be right about, so 1, 2, yeah, about right in through there, and then we'll get the feeling. It'll go back to pretty much the right vanishing point. So let me darken in that gesture so you'll see it. Darken in enough for you to see it. Probably darker than I would want it. And there's probably a good feel for it right in through there where I'm gonna put that leg, give or take. And I can always change it with my volume too, right there. Okay, so there we go. So now I can start to tighten this up a little bit, make this a little cleaner and a little bit prettier. So I'll come in here. I'll draw just for a little bit, and then really it's about your volume constructions. Or maybe I'll just you know what, I'll just let you see the whole thing. You can fast forward this if you want, if you get bored by it. No big deal. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to come in here and make that a little bit rounder. This tube's over, kind of like, attaches kind of like that. The tube coming in, his leg, kind of coming in through here. Don't be afraid to use your eraser a lot. It's okay. Right through here, some concentric lines to make that feel a little cleaner, a little rounder, volumetric figure. And this comes down through to his ankle. There it is. And this will push this way a little bit. There we go. That's it. There's Achilles, and of course this is the back of the foot, so this would come down like a triangle. So we're basically drawing, pretty much it's hidden through his calf in through here. You might see, I'm going to let a little bit of the small toe. Basically we're drawing this, we're putting it over here, just like so. I'll darken this calf line to come through. There we go, we have that through there. And notice this, the distance about a little over two and a quarter squares, maybe 2.5 slightly. He's overlapped and overlapped here, so it's about 2-ish. That might be a little bit narrower than the plan view. One full one, yeah, it's close. It's close. It might be a little small, but it just didn't look right other way. Always adjust to what looks right for the most part, especially in intuitive, what we're doing here. Okay, so we've got 1, 2. It feels pretty good, this leg in through here, and it's a little bit, they're slightly spread apart and not on the same plane, which would be pretty hard for him to keep his balance. So this leg comes over, so I'll work this volume, tube-ish kind of volume here and around. Would look something pretty good like that through here. Okay, and we're going to come down. And this tube attaches, we can make it attach, feel like it attaches here a little bit, kind of seeing the inside of it. And then down across. Kind of a bean shape for the calf, coming down and through and over to his foot and through here, and then the Achilles heel would be about right. The ankle, the heel would fall about right in through there, and then we'll have this wedged triangle for the foot, top, and then we'll cut that open. Keep this real simple. About right in through there. And there we have his foot. That might be lifting a little up. I might put that down just on the, make it feel a little bit more on the ground. In and then through, there we go. And kind of down, and then we have this wedge triangular foot there. All right, let's get some concentric lines here just to fill the volume of that, of this idea that we're working on. There we go. Okay. All right, so let's finish out the top of our drawing. There we go. So we'll just use a simple tube construction for the shoulder, make him a little broader. And through here, kind of a bean shape, boxy bean shape if you want, like so. And then tube this out to the elbow. It's going to end about right there. And we curve over. There we go. Keep it real. Try to keep it as simple as possible. Kind of a tube shape here, beating out over. There we go, like so. And then sort of the fist and fingers in this direction. Won't try to get too bogged down in that. There we go. That feels pretty comfortable. There we go. And then back here, we've got a little bit of the arm and hand showing through here, a little bit of this sitting on top, overlapped and then coming over. And we might see the elbow about right in through there to about, and then the other shoulder would be about right here. So you can kind of shoot for it if you draw through a little bit to feel that kind of where that would come through a little bit. Right through, maybe right in through there. That might be a little short. There. Right in through there. All right, so I'm going to clean this up a little bit and I'll come back and we'll wrap up our lesson with our two figures. I'll be right back. All right, so I cleaned it up a little bit to make it a little bit more presentable. So to recap that, we took our plan view, right, and that you developed, that you drew out from your photo reference, and you drew it from a side view and a front view, which should have been pretty challenging to draw it in more foreshortened ways. And then we built a two-point perspective structure to give us some guides for our convergences, how we diminish to the right and to the left, and we projected from that a grid on the ground to give us some good, decent, educated approximations. And then we use that to build our volumetric simplified figures and come up with some 2-point and really 3-point drawings now of the same figure in some very challenging and different positions. From, we started again from this very flat view. It's very easy to draw, and then you take that view and you start to turn it, and you turn it some more, and you keep turning it, all from an elevation of about 3 feet high. So we're looking at this from about 3 feet up, so about at the pelvic region. This would probably approximate this position and look, would probably approximate pretty well drawing from a drawing horse or drawing chair with the model relatively on a platform. Would feel pretty comfortable looking kind of like that. So, and then we wound up with getting positionings, and then we're still working with scale and proportion, getting all that correct and true. So very complex set of problems to deal with and solve, and ultimately all of this that we've done here, and we're going to do one more, number 3, later on. All of this we've done to understand the connection and the relationship between perspective and figure, or figure and the perspective and those relationships, which is every day. You can't escape perspective. So it works for buildings, it works for drawing turtles, or boxes, or milk cans, or computers, hands, calves, feet, toes, eyeballs, owls, football players, whatever it is that you want to draw, daisies, roses, I think you get the idea. And it's all there. Here we're just connecting it in a very relatively kind of intuitive way, even though we're using some linear perspective to harness it together. So I'll do one more example exercise. And then in the future, I'll show you how from observational study, we're using perspective 2 with the figure and the model, how each one of these individual parts can be thought of as a observational unit, like the digits of the fingers, in an intuitive perspective way. Okay, all right, I'll see you soon. Take care. There you go. Bye-bye.